Hello guys, today on this channel I will demonstrate you an old idea refreshed for 2024. This video asks your database with help of AI, and in this video we will refresh that with new technology. So that was based on the package from Beyond Code called Ask Your Database or AskDB, and I decided to refresh that with a new project of Filament. So we will ask Filament database for how many leads were this month or that month or something like that. And the idea is based on a real job from Upwork. So this is Upwork job, AI chatbot. It doesn't necessarily say anything about Laravel or Filament, but it requires uploading CSV monthly leads and then asking that database with ChatGPT integration. At first, I thought to implement that idea for my second channel about Python because it mentions Python, but then I thought that Filament is a perfect tool for that. So you would have leads table, and then somewhere here or separately you would have a chat. So for example, how many leads were last month? Send message, waiting for AI response, and in a few seconds ChatGPT should ask the database and give us the answers of 84 leads. Now, how does it work in the code? First, let's take a look at the Filament part. So in Filament, you create a Filament page. In this case, it's app Filament pages chat PHP extends page, and then you create a form. In this case, it's just text area with data as a form object. And then you have the blade of that page, which has that form with wire submit create. This is a Livewire component then. Wire submit create then calls the chat PHP create method, which is this. We have a few local variables of waiting for response or not, reply is empty or not. So we have that message and then send that message to the event dispatching query AI. That query AI with Livewire syntax is executed with on attribute here and is waiting for reply. And we'll get to that GPT engine in a minute. But basically that dispatching and on, what it does is that otherwise query would execute and would not wait for the response from the ChatGPT. I mean GPT model, it's not directly ChatGPT. So we're querying that OpenAI API and only then provide that waiting for response is false. And last question is this, because in the blade, that waiting for response is this. So should we show that button for send message or not? And then reply, should we show that reply or not? Now let's see what's inside of that GPT engine. So this is the class GPT engine, and the main method of that is ask that we would call, and then I will dissect it method by method in upcoming 5 to 10 minutes or so. But first, disclaimer, a lot of it is still based on that package I demonstrated a year ago, Laravel Ask Database by Beyond Code. So credits to Marcel and Beyond Code, but unfortunately since then, for a year, it wasn't really improved or maintained. It was more like an experiment, which was exactly like that. At the time, everyone was experimenting with AI. So in our case, we took a lot of the logic of that package, but refreshed it to newer GPT models, some more logic to make it work in our case. But still, a lot of credit goes to Marcel. So anyway, we have ask method. First, we need to get the database query. In general, we need to have two queries to the OpenAI API, to the GPT model. First, we want to ask that to transform the natural language text, like how many leads were last month, transform that into valid SQL query. Then we execute that query to the database, and then another call to that OpenAI API would be to transform our SQL results into a human language back to the chat. So let's dissect it step by step. So first, the method getQuery from user's question. First, we need to build the prompt to the GPT model, and this is quite complex, by the way. For that, we get all the tables from our database. If we take a look inside, we have schema manager and list tables. And then from all those tables, we filter the matching tables. For that, we have a separate view, blade view of tables. So we'll list the table names and ask GPT to find the relevant ones for the question. So that's first call to GPT. And actually now I realize there will be 3 calls. So this is the first one. We query OpenAI for that matching tables. Query OpenAI is a method that uses a package. Let's open Composer JSON OpenAI PHP Laravel, this one, which allows us to do something like this. Chat with GPT, This is one of the latest models at the moment, and this is our prompt. And we get the result. So if we go back here, we filter matching tables and perform some collection operations to have that as array. And then we pass that array into another view of Blade, which is prompt as database query, which will be prompt to GPT, which is a huge prompt. That's why it makes sense to have it as a Blade file, but that Blade would not be returned as HTML like a website or web page. It would be just for building the string, and that string is pretty huge. So you have guidelines, you have context for the GPT model. This is actually how you should build the prompt. The more information you give it, the more accuracy you will have. Inside we have for each loops, if statements, collection operations, so typical Blade, but passing the information like tables here, question, and emphasizing that it should be the result correct MySQL query for execution. So the result of that, we will build the prompt. Then we get back to get query, so we query OpenAI again, and then as a result we'll have SQL query returned, and then we need to ensure that it is safe. We have a separate method for that. There are of course multiple ways to do that, but in here we choose kind of the most simple one, just filtering out the words like insert, update, drop or something like that, because we do need only select queries. Everything else will be considered unsafe. But of course, the security should be added also on user level to have the permissions to the database for only select, for example. So this is kind of like additional validation. So as a result of get query, we have the SQL query. Then in our main ask method, we evaluate query. So we run that query in our real database. So this is the result from the database. And then we pass that result to another prompt to the GPT model, to the AI, to actually return the result. We built the prompt again from the same big view file of prompt, the Blade file. We perform another query and get the answer to the user as a string. So this quite complicated logic to make it all work. And of course, it's pretty hard to fully trust the AI answers because it may be correct only in like 90% of the times. But generally, were there any leads in 2022, for example? Let's see what it comes up with. No, there were no leads in 2022. Or who is the most active sales rep last month? I'm not sure if it will give the answer, we will see. So in some case it doesn't have the answer, I'm not sure on which level. Maybe it wasn't able to identify what is sales rep and that it should be taken from leads table. So yeah, I will put it all on GitHub. You can experiment yourself, but this is an example how you can chat with your database with an example of Filament, but it doesn't necessarily have to be Filament. And in the background, it uses OpenAI API. What do you think about this example? Would you have done something differently? Or what ideas you have for future projects for us to experiment with AI or GPT or something like that? Share your opinions in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel to get more videos like this one and shorter tips about Laravel, Livewire, and maybe Filament. And see you guys in other videos.